Let's talk about Bethesda, shall we? We'll talk about everything. One of the reasons why I think the best is yet to come. But we're dealing with some of the dark side as well as the good side. Because I'm not, I will say I'm a fanboy, I am not blinkered to the troubles that they've had. Or some of my own part in it, to be honest, because I haven't been completely innocent. So anyway, let's look at it, shall we? I mean, Bethesda have one consistent thing that everybody loves. It's the way they make their games. That's the only thing that matters. The only thing that they need to keep the same is the way they make their games. As they upgrade various software elements, they need to keep them elements in the game because this is a formula for success. That's the only thing that matters. Everything else is temporary. Elder Scrolls Online's money making model, that's temporary. That's just one game, right? So it's the way they sell, regions, that's temporary. Horse armor, that led to DLCs. DLCs were basically allowing mods to be made by the developer for their own game. And I'm a massive fan of them all. I love their DLCs. I mean, I've got my favourites like everybody else. I mean, Shivering Isles was definitely one of the best. I like Far Harbour. They really nailed the atmosphere in that one. And Nuka maybe to a lesser degree. But Skyrim was kind of, I felt I'm a bit dragged out and long-winded. But I loved the Dragonborn DLC. That was one of my favourites after the Shivering Isles. Maybe even being the Shivering Isles actually. I modded that. I would love to have modded that more extensively as well because quite frankly it had a lot of potential on that island. But that's besides the point anyway. These are just great DLCs from a company that have a formula for success. And it doesn't matter how much you hate their forums, their business practice when it comes to selling ESO online or anything else like that. This formula is what we like. That's the thing that matters in the end. That's what we want to see, continue. So when it comes to Bethesda, the path we should be thinking. So it's like, think about it this way: you play an open world game, big has variety open world game. You go along, you're following the plot. You can go anywhere you like. You click on a flower, nothing happens. Click on a chest. If it's meant to open, it opens. The rest of them are just eye candy. They're not all openable. They're not all. There's no random loot in every chest you search. I mean, in the Neverwinter Nights, you used to be able to go into rooms and search everything in the first one. And then Obsidian got their hands on it, and suddenly, you know, they were all eye candy. The doors were locked until a quest opened them. So basically, we were talking Hans Variety Open Worlds again. Obsidian made Hans Variety Open Worlds until they got their hands on Bethesda's engine and made, New Vegas. And suddenly everybody loved it and they thought they were great. But Obsidian were using Bethesda's engine to do it. When they did their own games, they didn't make open world games. They made closed games where you couldn't click on every chest, where you couldn't open every door, where you couldn't click on every flower. And this is their formula for success. This is a successful formula Bethesda have been using for ages now, all the way back to Morrowind. You see a box, you can click on it, you can see what's inside it. You see a flower, you can try and get ingredients from it. You can loot bodies, everything in the world that you can interact with it all. And this is their formula for success. This is the thing that makes their open worlds a lot more replayable than anybody else's open worlds. Because you don't need to go just doing quests. You can wander off and do anything you like. And there are things out there for you to do. Whereas in the other games, you wander off. There is nothing for you to do outside the quest. It's like Grand Theft Auto. Once you finish the plot, there's nothing to do. It's one of the reasons why I didn't get Red Dead Redemption, because I figured it'd be the same kind of thing. I love the idea of the game, but if there was more, if they didn't have a reputation for locking down the rest of the game, I would have probably brought it back now. But I'm a Bethesda open world fan. I'm not a Grand Theft Auto type open world fan, even though I think it's a great world, it's a lot of fun. Bethesda one beat it hands down. If I was to give them scores, Grand Theft Auto versus any Bethesda game you care to imagine, they'd get a 3, Bethesda would get an 8. So it's one of those situations where you've got to recognise their style of making open games matters massively. It's why they've got a massive formula for success. Now, what does that mean in the future? It means we've waited, God knows how many many years now for a second, Elder Scrolls 6. You know, we waited for ages for a new Fallout game. Meanwhile, they've focused all their efforts on online games like Fallout 76 and Elder Scrolls Online, which I knew they would. I knew that would dominate their time. So we've all suffered a massive gap between games as a result of that. But the reason for that is DLCs make them a lot of money. The original games for most game developers, right, don't produce half as much as the DLCs do over time. Because if you get a game and the DLCs are reasonably decent, you could keep selling those DLCs over and over again. You can make as many as you like, and sometimes some of these companies charge half the price of the game for the DLC. So two people buy a DLC, they've sold another game basically, and they can make as many as they like. So the DLCs are where the money is, and these open world ones are just massively encouraging buy, and it's the hard sell that puts me off. The hard sell. Plus, half the time I can't find what I want when I know I want a DLC. I can't find it anywhere. Or the Orc DLC from the Elder Scrolls, that was especially good. Says whereas the region for Skyrim, that was especially average. I've got the Black Marsh, which is an area I'm really keen to explore in the Elder Scrolls. I haven't had time to do it yet because of work and me doing these videos and other things. But I might video me exploring these things. But that, I'm afraid it'd probably be a bit average as well. And it could be so much more because the lore and everything behind that, it hints at so much greatness and then just doesn't fill in the blanks. So there was an open book there. They could have filled in loads of blanks and made it rich. And I get the feeling they've run out of steam. They need somebody on their team that can think out of the box. And my advice is hire a bunch of dyslexics, because dyslexics' minds are bouncing back and forth. They don't stop thinking, and they might not be able to type the word concern without making a mistake, but they can tell you loads of ideas. You know, they know that if you put a shoe next to a mouse, you've got a mouse shoe. You know, it might not be an idea that works, but it's a new idea. Nobody else has thought of it. Mouse shoe. Anyway, kind of like sneakers that like cheese. But anyway, the point is, I've never run out of ideas with Bethesda games when I've been modding them. Never. I've always had loads. I've had to stop myself and move on. It was a question of which one do I want to mod the most. Do I go this way? Do I go that way? It's the same with gaming. Which one do I want to play most? I'm having to force myself to just go down the road and say, right, that's the game I want to play today. I'll play that tomorrow. When tomorrow comes, which game do I want to play? It's like that, but with mods and ideas. And I think Bethesda, what we want to really see from Bethesda is bigger teams making more games. I mean, you see some companies like Electronic Arts churning out game after game after game, and just like even Assassin's Creed ones, you know, they really milk them to death because they ran out of ideas. What they need is a fountain of ideas, a team, basically, a lore team that can dream up these ideas and then let the developers just go with it. Because I had a lot of fun taking these lore things and making them into missions and then interacting them as I went. Because I kind of took a broad stroke approach. You do all the broad strokes, then you fill in the little details after the broad painting is done. Then you start painting the detail on the grass and the leaves on the tree after you painted the basic tree. And it worked. It worked rather well. I got some really emotional moments in my mods. But I think they need a team, right? Or a creative team. And they need to keep bringing new people in and refreshing this team so the ideas never run out. Just keep a few core members in the team that know the whole story and can be advisors to these new creators. And then have several teams working on the games. And I think this is one of the things that Bethesda with Microsoft have a chance of doing, because Microsoft's got the money. And if Bethesda can turn their games into profit for Microsoft, I'm pretty sure they can. They've done it for everybody else, right? If they can make that into profit, Microsoft are going to want to have multiple teams. They could have a Fallout team, and a Skyrim team, and a Starfield team, all working on games simultaneously. The only thing I would say is you keep the staff that are in charge of it now in charge of all the teams. Because quite frankly, these are the people that have kept it on path and stopped it deviating. And the mistakes many companies make are they bring a new team in and they don't have the vision of the original creators. It's the same people who are trying to edit my mods without my permission. They didn't have my vision. They took it away in directions that completely destroyed the whole vision for the mod. You know, so I mean, it used to drive me nuts. But you need to keep the original people in place in order to do it, in order to keep that focus. But I think the chances are with Microsoft, though, they could become far bigger, and you could have various studios making various games, you know, with an oversight from various people that should be overseeing it all. And the potential there, I mean, I think it's very important, though, to have a central team based on doing the lore and the stories in the background. Somebody that can keep the focus rooted actually in the thing. Because people might not bother too much with the lore, but it's a very important aspect of the game. I mean, I actually went around a few places and I realised most people, even the experts, don't really understand the lore. They don't understand what's going on. And in the Elder Scrolls, it's a fairly simple thing. It's humans versus elves. The humans have their version of the law, and the elves have their version of the law, and they contradict each other. That's by design. It's not a mistake. Once you realise that, in fact, what do you do when you know that? You're on the character creation screen. You've got a human, you've got an elf character you want to make. Which way do you go? If you go with the elf, do you suddenly think Larkin was a good guy? Because the elves don't think he is. You've just established a background for your character instantly. Imagine if they did the same thing for the orcs. You know? Maybe the wood elves have the same thing as the other elves, but you can see how it goes, can't you? I mean, the orcs supposedly are supposed to be kind of elves as well in the Elder Scrolls, but I don't think that really works. Right, and the Dwemer were supposed to be elves as well. And I don't think that really works, right? But the point is, this lore creates gameplay. Half the characters I made drew upon the lore, and then I just expanded on it. The Necromancer for Oblivion, that was me researching the origin of the Mages Guild and realising that there was a whole mod to be made, you know, from the Necromancer story. Because whilst I'm sure some Necromancers were quite evil, some of the others, you know, were. They were just practicing necromancy, you know, harmlessly, and then the Mages Guild did their old Zeke Heil thing on them and created a war. On the other hand, some of them were probably psychotic, you know, or just didn't understand that murdering people and bringing Granny back to life was going to upset a lot of people. But there was a lot, this depth. And this is the best thing about Bethesda games. When you look at it, you see the broad strokes when you're playing it. The first time you load up Skyrim and the dragon's attacking Helgen, you see the dragon, you see the ruins, and that's all you see. And then you realise you're being executed for crossing a border because things have gotten so bad with the civil war that they're not even asking if you're innocent anymore. Then you realise that Helgen was actually a border town and it's destroyed. And then suddenly Falmor are everywhere and they invaded, you know, Cyrodiil during the Great War. Then the detail starts to come into place. Then one day you're searching around the embassy, you know, the Falmor embassy, and you found the dossier, you know, and you realise who was aiding the Falmor all along. And then all the detail starts to mount up, and suddenly you're completely immersed in a world that can only do that because that chest had something in it and you could open it. This is what makes Bethesda's games so great, and this is what I want to see them keep on doing. And I believe the partnership with Microsoft could be just the right thing to see more games coming out of the Bethesda studios. I mean, I've seen a few I'm interested in. I mean, admittedly, ID Soft, let's call it ID Soft, they've got a style all of their own, and I used to be a massive fan of ID Soft. Right? Calling them Bethesda Studios was kind of like to undermine ID Soft. They should have kept the name ID Soft. But I see some really good games coming out of the Bethesda Studio things. I mean, Dishonored, for example. I mean, Dishonored is a fantastic game. Short-lived. Literally about so many hours and it's finished. But it's a fantastic game. In fact, I might go and play that again sometime. right? There are two, maybe not so much. The first one, definitely. But they've got some really good original teams working under them. And I'm kind of hoping that we see a lot more, say, like that coming out of their studios. Now there's the money to back them up. Let's hope they don't just focus on Elder Scrolls Online and Fallout 76, because if they do, I'm going to be dead and gone before we see any more games from them that I will play. Anyway, see you in the next one. Hope you enjoyed this chat. And I'm very excited to see what Bethesda can come out with in the future, because I do believe this partnership or this takeover by Microsoft could be a good thing. See you in the next one.